When my daughter embarrassed me, I sold her apartment and left a life-changing letter behind. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when everything fell apart at the neighborhood barbecue. Bob, a proud father and factory worker, stood by the grill, flipping burgers. Laughter and flames danced in the air, the smell of charred meat mixing with fresh-cut grass. In that small suburban town, everything felt perfect. That is until his daughter, Sarah, tried to impress her friends. "Dad's been struggling at the factory," she laughed, her friends echoing her words with amusement. Bob's heart dropped. She meant it as a joke, but it felt like a knife to his gut. The laughter faded, and he stared at her, feeling exposed, as if all his hard work was suddenly laid bare for everyone to critique. Was he a failure? That question echoed in his head, expanding his shame. A feeling he'd never known before washed over him, humiliation. The pride he always held tightly shattered in an instant, leaving behind shards of resentment fueled by his need to reclaim dignity. After the barbecue, Bob made a rash decision. He sold Sarah's apartment, the very place he had helped her acquire. Math was his strong suit, but emotions? He was lost. He packed her belongings, leaving behind memories soaked in laughter and warmth, knowing it would hurt her but believing it was his only way to regain respect. He left a letter, pouring out his heart. Each word detailed the sacrifices he'd made, the sleepless nights, and the dreams he held for her future. The days turned into a blur for Sarah. The laughter of her friends felt hollow as they belittled her struggles, unaware of the deepest wound her father had inflicted. She questioned her worth, both as an artist and as a daughter. Every stroke of her brush felt heavier, every critique sharper. The world she once found joy in grew dimmer each day. All she longed for was her father's validation, yet misplaced anger bubbled just beneath her surface. Then fate took an unexpected turn. Bob wandered into an art exhibit showcasing Sarah's work, almost as if drawn by an invisible thread. As their eyes met across the bustling gallery, emotions collided. What was supposed to be a moment of connection turned into a battlefield of accusations. "How could you do this to me, Dad?" Sarah's voice shook as tears streamed down her face. Each word struck Bob like a physical blow. "I thought you understood me." The room fell silent around them. They stood amidst a sea of strangers, yet in that moment, they felt utterly alone. It was a confrontation steeped in years of misunderstanding, of pride and hurt. But as their voices finally calmed, the unspoken love that still lingered crackled in the air, hinting at the possibility of healing. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the moment hung heavily between them, Bob and Sarah felt the weight of their choices pushing against their chests. Would they find a way to mend their relationship? Or would pride blind them from the love they both desperately needed? The tension hung in the air, leaving both of them at a crossroads, teetering on the edge of reconnecting or drifting apart forever. Sarah's breath hitched, the anger battling with sadness in her chest. She glanced around the gallery, the vibrant colors of her paintings seeming to mock her turmoil. Each piece was a piece of her soul, yet here she stood, feeling more disconnected than ever. "Do you even care about my dreams?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The crowd resumed their chatter, but it felt like they were in their own bubble of conflict, saturated with hurt, longing, and fear. Bob's heart raced. He watched his daughter, the woman he loved more than anything but felt he could never quite reach. "I didn't want you to struggle. I just what?" Sarah interrupted, pain radiating through her words. "You thought selling my apartment would help?" "I suddenly feel like the punchline of a joke, Dad. The whole world knows about your failures because of me." A vision of the barbecue flashed in Bob's mind, the laughter of others and the heat from the flames. But what he hadn't seen was the flicker of disappointment in her eyes. "I thought you were proud of me," she cried, "that you'd support me no matter what." Each word became a nail stabbing into his conscience. "I am proud of you," he shouted, his frustration spilling over. "But how could I support a life that seems so uncertain?" "Art doesn't pay the bills, Sarah." The room fell silent once more, every eye now glued to the unfolding drama. People exchanged glances, sensing the deep divide between father and daughter, the raw pain laid bare. Bob's words hung in the air like a toxic cloud, and he felt the weight of judgment shift toward him. "Is that really what you think?" Sarah's expression twisted, revealing vulnerability beneath her anger. "That I'm just playing around? This is my passion. It's what makes me feel alive, Dad." A wave of regret washed over Bob. Suddenly, he wasn't just a father, he was the embodiment of all the misunderstandings, all the fears they both carried. "I just wanted to protect you." "From what?" "From following my heart?" She shook her head, tears escaping her eyes again. "You're the one who always told me to chase my dreams. But when I actually did, you turned around and sold everything out from under me, just like that." Bob looked around, fully aware of the stares now directed towards them. He felt the echo of Sarah's hurt, reverberating through his own soul. "I thought you didn't want me in your life. After what you said that day, the barbecue. Of course I want you. I wanted you to see me." The walls of misunderstanding began to crumble, uncertainty hanging like a veil around them. Sarah dipped her head, trying to compose herself amidst the cacophony of emotions. Bob could almost see the struggle within her, the love for her father, the disappointment, and the yearning for connection. "I don't want to lose you," he finally said, voice softer now. For a moment, Sarah's expression flickered, like hope daring to break through the pain. "Then let us start back from where we lost each other, Dad. No more secrets, no more walls." It was a fragile truce, trust on shaky ground, yet it was a start. They both had to find a way through the maze of hurt to rediscover the father-daughter bond that once felt so unbreakable. Just then, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. It was Sarah's art mentor, Jenna, a woman who had always believed in Sarah's talent. Before either could speak, Jenna cut in, "I heard what you just said, and I think I might have a solution." The words hung in the air, filled with possibilities. Bob and Sarah exchanged a glance, the curiosity battling with their lingering hurt. What did Jenna mean by that? Would this be the answer they needed to reconnect, or just another twist in their already tangled story? Jenna stepped closer, her eyes sparkling with an intensity that pulled both Bob and Sarah into her orbit. "I know how hard things have been for you too, but sometimes the path forward isn't as straightforward as it seems." "Path forward?" Sarah asked, her voice softening, threading through the tension hanging like fog between them. "Art shows are about more than just showcasing talent," Jenna continued, her gaze shifting between father and daughter. "They expose raw emotions, and yours have exploded right here, right now. But what if we turned all this turmoil into something beautiful?" "What do you mean?" Bob's brow furrowed, still feeling the weight of the milieu, the judgments, the stares, the disappointment. "Imagine creating a collaborative piece," Jenna suggested, her excitement bubbling like a fountain. "You both have stories, experiences, pain, love, let us mash them together. A public installation that tells your story, reconciles what has happened." The words hung in the air, subtle yet revolutionary. Sarah's eyes widened, reflecting a glimmer of hope mixed with doubt. "You really think we can do that? I want to be able to just jump into this with him." "Why not? You already took the hardest steps tonight by confronting each other. This would be a continuation, an evolution," Jenna urged. Bob felt his heart race. "Collaborate? With my daughter? After all that has happened?" "Exactly," Jenna smiled, her enthusiasm contagious. "Let the world see the beauty of your struggles. Open those floodgates. Pour your hearts into this piece." It could be cathartic for both of you. You see, sometimes pain can create the finest art. Sarah looked at her father, her chest rising and falling like the tide. What do you think, Dad? Would you want to do this? He hesitated, the gravity of their previous conversation still fresh. The thought of opening himself up, exposing his own fears alongside hers was daunting. Yet, at the same time, the idea of healing, of mending their fractured connection, started to flicker like a flame inside of him. Can we even make something like that? He frowned, lost in thought. Of course, you can. Jenna encouraged. Art has no boundaries, it thrives on authenticity and raw emotion. You both have those in spades. Sarah tilted her head, watching him closely. She could see her father's internal battle. What's it going to be, Dad? Are you in? Bob took a deep breath, the weight of regret and love intertwining in his chest. Yeah, I want to try. I want to be part of something that could help us both. A wave of understanding washed over Sarah's features, pushing her anger to the side for a moment. Okay, let us do this together. It might just work. As they spoke, an unlikely harmony began to weave between them, the threads of festering resentment slowly fraying away. But within that budding unity lay a new fear, the fear of vulnerability. Jenna beamed at them. Wonderful. Let us set a date for the first session. You can brainstorm ideas, layers, meanings, everything. Trust me, this process could reshape not just your art, but your relationship. Bob nodded slowly, glancing around at the gallery, which suddenly seemed less a place of judgment and more a canvas waiting to be painted. He felt a flicker of something new in his chest, a hope he hadn't realized he missed, but just as they began to talk logistics, a distant voice caught their attention. Isn't it so sad, watching a father ruin his daughter's dreams? The three of them froze, stunned by the careless comment that reverberated through the gallery like a heartbeat. The laughter and whispers resumed, turning their workspace back into a stage of scrutiny. The fragile trust they had just begun to build now felt on the verge of collapse, all thanks to an outsider's words. Bob's heart sank as he turned back to Sarah. We can't let them define our story. We need to focus on us. But behind Sarah's composed facade, a storm of emotions brewed. Would they really find a way to connect in this new project, or would the judgment of others prove too much? Let us walk out of here, Sarah suggested. Suddenly more determined than ever. We can start fresh, just us. They headed to the door, each step igniting an uncertain yet courageous new journey. But the question lingered, could they shield their fragile hope from the outside world? Outside the gallery, the vibrant life of the city buzzed with possibilities, yet uncertainty loomed just as heavily as before. What if the world wouldn't let them start anew? As they stepped outside, the night air was alive with the sounds of the bustling city. Cars honked and laughter floated from nearby cafes, but none of it registered with Bob and Sarah. The sharp sting of judgment still clung to them, casting a shadow on the brightness around. Should we just go home? Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. She shoved her hands into her pockets, trying to hold on to a sense of control. Bob glanced at her. He could see the conflict swirling behind her eyes. No, he said firmly, shaking his head. We can't let that comment haunt us. This is our chance. A deep breath settled the weight on his chest, and he turned to face her. We need to find a place that feels safe where we can talk, really talk, about our story. What do you think? Sarah bit her lip, uncertainty flickering in her gaze. But what if it doesn't work? What if we just embarrass ourselves more? His heart ached at her words. If we don't try, we'll never know. It's about us, not anyone else. Let's find a way to create something that's truly ours. After a moment's pause, Sarah nodded, a spark of determination igniting in her eyes. Okay, but let us get out of here first. The gallery feels so heavy right now. They walked down the street, heading toward a small park they often visited. It was a space infused with memories of laughter, fights, and little victories where they both had started to rebuild their bond many times before. As they reached the park, the moon cast a soft glow over the benches and trees. Bob settled down and motioned for Sarah to join him. Once seated, he looked at her, hoping to penetrate the walls they had both built around themselves over the years. "Sarah, I know I haven't been the dad you needed. I tried to shield you from hardships, but maybe in doing so, I pushed you away instead," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. She looked at him, her brow furrowed. "Dad, I wanted your support, not a wall between us. But when I felt you didn't believe in me, it crushed everything. Do you even understand how that felt?" Bob felt the heat rise in his chest as he absorbed her words. "I do now. I failed to see how my doubts and my own fears limited you. But I want to change that." Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes as she sighed, letting out a shaky breath. "I guess it's just scary. What if this project exposes us in ways we can't handle?" "Anything worth doing is going to be scary," he replied, determination creeping into his voice. "But we have to take that risk. Open up. This is our moment. We can do this together." She studied his face, searching for sincerity, then offered a small nod. A fragile hope began to blossom again. They were on the threshold of something new, yet the challenge loomed large. "What if we fail?" she whispered, vulnerability cracking through her bravado. "Then we try again," he said, his heart pounding. "And if that's not enough, we break down those barriers together. This is about rebuilding our trust and our love." Silence enveloped them, the seriousness of their conversation sinking in deeper than any noise from the outside world. Just then, a group of teenagers passed, laughing and taking pictures under the moon. The carefree joy seemed so distant from their reality. "Think we can find that joy again?" Sarah finally asked, a glimmer of what-if sparking in her eyes. "I believe we can," Bob responded, more confidently than he felt. There was a long road ahead, filled with uncertainty. But could it possibly lead them to a place where healing met understanding? The question loomed heavily between them. As the wind picked up lightly, rustling the leaves around them, Bob felt the weight of those unspoken words. What if they found not just healing, but a new beginning in creating something entirely unexpected? The moonlight flickered through the branches of the trees, casting silhouettes on the ground. Bob and Sarah sat in their little haven, the sweet scent of grass mingling with the cool breeze, a momentary refuge from the world beyond the park gates. But the air between them was thick with unsaid emotions, heavy with the weight of their past. "So what do we need to do?" Sarah asked, breaking the silence. Her voice felt tentative but filled with desire to step forward. Bob could sense her eagerness to forge a new path. It stirred something deep within him. "I think we need to let go of everything that's holding us back," he replied, his hands clasped together. "We need to embrace our story as it is, even the messy parts. It's all we've got." "Maybe we should write it down," Sarah suggested, her eyebrows raised, excitement bubbling through her voice. "Like a journal? Or even a script? We can document the truth. How we felt, what we want to change." Bob couldn't help but smile at the thought. "You think that could work?" "Absolutely. It can be personal. We can share whatever we feel, our fears, our dreams, all of it." There was a spark in her eyes. That flicker of hope reminded him of the little girl who used to scribble her thoughts and plans in notebooks. "What do you think?" "I'm on board," he said. "We write, we share, we create. It's about us, and what we want from this project. Maybe it's an art piece, maybe a book. Whatever it becomes, it's not about impressing anyone else. But it starts with us," she echoed, her smile widening. The bond between them felt like it was stretching, reaching for something new and bright. Just then, the echo of laughter broke through the stillness of the park, another group of friends having the kind of fun they used to enjoy together. Bob caught Sarah's gaze drifting toward the sound, a wistful look crossing her face. "Do you miss it?" he asked, that familiar ache in his heart returning. "Sometimes," she admitted. But it feels different now, like there's this distance between my memories and who I am now. I want to reclaim that joy. Not just the past, but a future where we can really connect. That's exactly what we're doing, he said softly, reaching out and squeezing her hand. We can start right here, right now. As they sat side by side, an idea began to crystallize. The shared notion of creating something from their pain, from the struggles, anchored them further. It was about more than art, it was healing. A child's laughter erupted nearby, sending a wave of nostalgia washing over Bob. When did we stop laughing like that? He mused, half to himself, half to Sarah. Maybe it was when we let fear dictate everything, she suggested, a spark of defiance creeping into her tone. But that ends today. Yes, he agreed, feeling the warmth of her determination. Let's make something honest. We can document how we feel, how we hurt, and how we choose to heal. As the city lights began to twinkle, an idea sparked in Bob's mind. What if we hold a little exhibition when we finish? Invite everyone we know, share our story. Her eyes widened at the thought. You really think they'd come? After everything? Why not? It's our truth, and it deserves to be heard. We can't let fear of judgment stop us from sharing our journey. This is for us. The night deepened, filled with shared ambitions and dreams that began to weave together. They faced each other now, both smiles breaking out like weathered buds blooming in the sun, tentative but real. But as Sarah looked down, she asked, almost inaudibly, what if we pour everything into this and it still falls flat? What if it doesn't? Bob shot back, hope resonating through his voice. What if this is exactly what we needed, a revival? A moment hung there, stretching into something ripe with promise, yet tinged with uncertainty. The question lingered between them, would they be brave enough to face the truth of their hearts and let it create something beautiful? As the night encircled them, Bob felt that stirring again deep within him. Maybe this was their chance to carve out a new path. But what if they discovered something about themselves that was too painful to confront? The wind shifted, carrying the sounds of laughter further away, fading like a distant memory. Bob and Sarah remained there, their fingers still intertwined, a small island of connection in the vast chaos of their lives. What's the first step? Sarah finally asked, the enthusiasm in her voice softening to something more reflective. Bob took a deep breath, the crisp night air filling his lungs. Let's just start writing. Tonight. We can write about our memories, our dreams, everything. He pulled out his phone, ready to type down their thoughts. Sarah nodded, and a flicker of determination sparked in her eyes. Okay, let's do it, she said. But no holding back. This is about the truth. As they both began to write, the words spilled out like long-dammed water. Bob could feel the weight of his past lifting just slightly, like a mist lifting at dawn. He started to write about the moment he walked away from everything he knew. He typed about his regret, his fears, and the pain that had haunted him for years. Sarah, sitting beside him, poured out her heart too. The memories flowed, the joys and pains intertwined like braided ribbons. She wrote about childhood dreams, about losing her way, and about the moments that made her feel alive. There was laughter, there were tears, a catharsis unfolding in the silence around them. After some time, Bob looked over at her. Her brow was furrowed, and her face glowed with a mix of concentration and emotion. What's going on in that beautiful mind of yours? He asked, teasingly. She looked up, a tiny tear escaping down her cheek. It's just. I haven't felt this free in so long. Her voice cracked, revealing cracks in her fortitude. It's like I forgot what it felt like to let it all out. Bob felt a surge of tenderness. Let it all out. That's why we're here, right? To set it free? Yeah, I just don't want to feel judged, she whispered. There was vulnerability in her eyes, raw and open. It pulled at Bob's heart. What if we promise each other that we won't judge? Just support. His voice was steady, encouraging. It's just us now. She nodded, and the two continued, fingers flying over screens, hearts pouring words into the night. More laughter, more memories. It felt like they were both finding the pieces of themselves that were lost. Hours slipped away, the park around them quieting as streetlights flickered on one by one. Finally, they both stopped, looking at each other, breathless. "Do you think anyone will understand?" Sarah finally asked, doubt creeping back into her expression. "Honestly? I hope they don't, at least not completely. This is our truth, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real." He felt a surge of conviction. As the stars sparkled overhead, Bob stood, stretching his stiff limbs. "Let us read some of it aloud," he suggested, a challenge hidden in his tone. "Read? Like out loud?" Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?" Bob chuckled. "We might even get a laugh out of it," he tried to lighten the mood. "I don't know," she hesitated, chewing on her lip, but something in Bob's voice ignited a flicker of bravery within her. She took a deep breath. "Okay, just a little." Bob launched into a snippet of his writing, his voice steady but with a hint of vulnerability. He shared moments of pain, regret, heartbreak. Each word echoed in the stillness around them, wrapping the air in a raw, emotional blanket. As he finished, he looked at Sarah with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Your turn." She stuttered, the hesitation leaping back into her tone. "What if I get emotional?" "That's the point." Bob grinned. "Just let it spill over." It was a challenge thrown at her, a chance to break free once more. The darkness of the park felt like an embrace, and as the cool air caressed their skin, the moment beckoned. Just as she opened her mouth, the distant sound of sirens abruptly shattered the silence. Both of them froze. The reality of their surroundings came rushing back, nudging at their fragile space. What if we never get past our fears?" Sarah whispered. Vulnerability flooding back in an instant, Bob's heart raced. That question lingered, vibrating with unease, casting a shadow over their newfound hope. Yet the spark of determination flickered inside him. "We will," he replied fiercely, "because we have to." And as they both drew breath for the next chapter, they faced the truth looming ahead, unsure but ready for whatever it might bring. What would they uncover about themselves, together? As the sirens faded into the distance, a heavy silence wrapped around them. It was a stark reminder that outside their little bubble, the world was still chaotic, still unpredictable. Sarah pulled her knees to her chest, looking down, her fingers nervously twisting the fabric of her jeans. Bob sensed the shift in the air, the fragile connection they had just forged trembling under the weight of unspoken fears. "Let us not let that question haunt us," he urged gently, shifting closer to her. "What if we share those fears instead of running from them?" She looked up, her eyes glistening under the dim light. "What if sharing just makes it harder?" "Then we'll face it together," he replied, his determination unwavering. "We're not alone anymore." Taking a deep breath, Sarah cracked the door of her heart open just a little wider. "Fine," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm scared that people will laugh at me, or worse, they'll think I'm weak." Bob nodded, acknowledging her fear. "And what if they don't? What if they relate to you?" The possibility hung in the air, flickering like the streetlight above them. "You're right, but what if I drop this facade I've built?" "It's not a facade, Sarah. It's a shield. But you don't need to protect yourself anymore." She let out a shaky laugh, but the brightness in her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Okay, I'll try, but don't judge, all right? I promise, no judgment. Only support." With a deep breath, Sarah began to share snippets of her own story. Her words came hesitant at first, shaky like a young sapling finding its roots. "I've felt lost," she admitted. "I graduated college, but it didn't feel like enough. I thought pursuing my passion would bring clarity, but it only left me more confused." Each shared memory felt like peeling away layers, revealing raw parts beneath that had long been buried. Bob listened, captivated by her honesty, by the softness in her voice punctuated by exaggerated gestures. It felt like they were not just weaving a narrative but building a bridge across insecurities. I always tried to act tough, like nothing bothered me. But her voice faltered, eyes falling to the ground again as shame rose within her. But inside, I was just scared. Bob scooted closer, offering her a gentler energy. It's okay. Every one of us feels that way sometimes. His heart swelled with empathy. You being honest, right now, is the bravest thing you can do. She looked at him, the walls she had built seeming to crumble a little. You really think so? I know so, he said fiercely. And it's not admitting weakness. It's about owning your truth. With each word, they ventured deeper into vulnerability, a place that felt both terrifying and liberating. They shared fears, joys, failures, and moments of clarity. It felt like each sentence breathed new life into them, stitching their stories together one word at a time. As they poured their hearts out, the park around them fell silent once more, the distant city sounds fading into the background. When Sarah finally stopped, dropping her head onto his shoulder, Bob felt something warm unfurl in his chest. We're doing this, he whispered, feeling the depth of connection that had developed between them. Just then, an unexpected sound broke their moment. An old couple walked hand in hand past them, chuckling loudly. Their laughter was genuine, an echo of the joys Bob and Sarah had been striving to rediscover. Look, Bob said, jerking his head toward them. It's like the universe is showing us that life goes on. No matter our fears, it's okay to laugh, to let go. They both laughed, the tension slowly melting away. But just as things felt light again, a new unease crept in. Tell me, Sarah said quietly, curiosity dancing in her eyes. What do we do if we uncover something we can't handle? Bob took a deep breath. Then we'll solve it together. Whatever comes next, we face it together. And as they sat there under the twinkling stars, both heartbeats quickening with a mix of trepidation and excitement, they realized the next chapter of their journey awaited them, waiting to be uncovered. Would they find the strength they needed, or be left with more questions than answers? The laughter from the couple echoed softly in the stillness. For a moment, it felt like they were cloaked in warmth amidst a world that often felt cold and indifferent. But the weight of uncertainty lingered, pressing on each of them like a thick fog. Okay, Sarah broke the silence, her voice steady but laced with apprehension. What's the first big fear we tackle? What if we dig too deep? Digging deep is what unearths truth, isn't it? Bob replied, searching her face for reassurance. He wasn't sure if his own insecurities shone through. Let's start with something manageable. How about you tell me about a dream you haven't chased yet? Her brows knitted together. A dream? She echoed, pausing to gather her thoughts. At one point, there was a dream to write, to make stories come to life. Bob's eyes lit up. That's incredible. So why haven't you? I think I lost my way somewhere along the line, Sarah admitted, a shadow passing over her features. It felt too vulnerable. What if it's terrible? What if nobody cares? But what if it's amazing? He said, leaning in. What if it touches just one person, and in turn, you find something beautiful in it? A small spark ignited in her eyes. I haven't thought of it that way. All I see are the obstacles. Yeah, but imagine the joy of creating. You put yourself out there, and you never know who might resonate with it. He spoke with such earnestness that Sarah felt a warmth spreading. You believe in me, she said, wonder spilling from her words. Absolutely. Why would I not? It's a precious gift to share your voice. The energy shifted in the air, a thread of hope poking through their shared fears. Suddenly, the world outside their cozy bubble didn't seem as chaotic. They were the masters of their own stories, and in this moment, their fears were lightened by the possibility of dreams rekindled. Okay, Sarah said, a flicker of determination dancing in her tone. I'll try to write again, but what about you? What's your fear? Bob shifted, making a slight grimace. Talking about himself always felt different than discussing Sarah's dreams. I guess I'm afraid of being alone. Being left behind. Her expression softened. You have me. I'm here. But what about deeper fears, like not being good enough, he interjected, his voice barely above a whisper. That's powerful, Sarah said, her smile twinged with sympathy. But you didn't get left behind, you're right here with me. True, he conceded, feeling the bond tightening. Maybe it's time to challenge that feeling, to let go of what doesn't serve us anymore. The past, the doubts. As they spoke, the streetlight flickered, filling their small bubble with a flickering warmth. It felt alive, pulsing with possibilities just waiting to be explored. Let's make a pact, Sarah suggested, filled with renewed energy. We both promise to write down a dream and a fear every day. Then we'll share them. Bob chuckled. Is this the part where we hold each other accountable too? Absolutely. I'm not letting you slip back into that dark corner. Their laughter bubbled again, cutting through the last residue of their earlier unease. Light and easy, like the budding joy they were starting to cultivate together, but just as a new wave of excitement swept through Sarah, a doubt crept in. What if I fail? What if nothing changes? Then we'll redefine what failure means. Remember, Bob said firmly, we're in this together. As they began to talk about what their first entries in this new journey might entail, a shadow swept across the park, blocking out the stars momentarily. A figure moved closer, a presence heavy with intention. Bob felt a shiver run down his spine. Sarah? He gestured subtly. What? She turned as the figure emerged from the darkness. Do you see that person? A thud began to form in both their chests, carrying a weight neither of them anticipated. We're about to face something we didn't even prepare for. Both of them held their breath as the stranger stepped into the light, a stern expression etched across their face. Would their night of connection be disrupted by what loomed ahead? The stranger stepped closer, a harsh light illuminating the features of a woman with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through to the core of Sarah and Bob. She wore a rumpled coat, a stark contrast to the joyful warmth of the couple, and her presence felt like an incoming storm. What do you want? Bob's voice was steady, but his heart raced. He instinctively moved a half-step closer to Sarah, hoping to shield her from whatever this was. I need to talk to you, the woman said, her voice low and urgent. Now. Sarah glanced at Bob, a flicker of concern in her eyes. Maybe we should hear her out? She whispered. Bob nodded, though unease twisted in his stomach. All right, he said, what's this about? The woman stepped into the dim glow of the streetlight, and Sarah felt a tremor run through her. There was something familiar about her, but in a way that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. I'm here about your father, she said bluntly, fixing her gaze on Bob. Dad? Bob's expression twisted as confusion washed over him. What do you mean? The woman took a deep breath, as though bracing for impact. He's been looking for you. And no, it's not what you think. He needs to talk. Why now? Bob shot back, an edge creeping into his voice. After all these years? Because he's sick. He doesn't have much time left, she replied. The weight of her words fell like a lead blanket over them. Silence hung thick between them, and Sarah's mind raced. She had only heard fragments of Bob's past, stories laced with resentment and hurt, and now, the tapestry of those tales was unraveling before her. Do you even hear what you're saying? Bob began, voice trembling. After abandoning me and Mom, he thinks he can just show up now? That doesn't make any sense. The woman softened, her features shifting. I get it. But what if you regret not seeing him? What if this is a chance for closure? Sarah sensed Bob's heart wrestling with emotions, a tumultuous blend of anger, fear, and something else painful longing. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently, urging him to listen. "What if I don't care?" Bob snapped, pulling his hand away. But his eyes betrayed him. They glistened with unshed tears, reflecting a storm of unresolved feelings. "People make mistakes," the stranger pressed, stepping closer, her expression earnest. "Life gets messy. But there's still an opportunity for understanding, for healing." Bob clenched his jaw. "I don't think I can do that, not after everything." The woman closed the distance, a flicker of intensity igniting her voice. "If I didn't care, I wouldn't be here. Just think about it. This may be your last chance to make sense of it all." The pressure of her words hung in the air, suffocating and unyielding. Sarah watched as Bob's emotions shifted beneath the surface, wrestling with the familiar ghosts of his past. "Maybe I should go," Bob muttered, taking a step back, as if distancing from the revelation. "Wait," Sarah called softly, stepping between him and the stranger. "You have to decide what this means for you, but you don't have to face this alone. I'll be with you, whatever you choose." Her voice brought him back, grounding him in their shared space. "What if I regret it?" he murmured, eyes darting between Sarah and the mysterious woman. "Then you'll have a chance to live with that regret. But if you go, you might just find something beautiful in the ashes of your past," the woman said quietly, her expression revealing layers of empathy that wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Just like that, Bob faced a pivotal crossroad. The shadows of his father loomed large, whispering questions he had buried deep inside. Would he step into the past, or would he choose to turn away? As the air grew thick with tension, the flickering streetlight dimmed, mirroring the fading clarity of his choice. "Are you ready to face a truth that might change everything?" Sarah asked, lips trembling slightly. And as Bob contemplated the uncertainty ahead, the looming figure of his past clawed at his thoughts, inviting yet haunting. Would he seize the moment, or let it slip away into nothingness? Bob stood at the crossroads of his life, caught between the love and hope that Sarah offered and the haunting anger that lingered in the shadows of his past. The woman's words echoed like a warning bell. His father was sick, and time was slipping away like sand through their fingers. It sunk in deeper. This wasn't about his father, it was about him, about choosing between the pain of the past and the promise of healing. "Bob," Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, steady and enveloping. "Whatever you decide, I'm here. We face everything together now." Her hand found his again, warmth threading through him like a lifeline. Taking a deep breath, he looked into her eyes, searching for the strength he had nearly given up on. "What if seeing him only reopens old wounds?" "Then we'll face that pain," she replied, unwavering. "But what if it leads to something beautiful? Something unexpected?" The weight of possibility pressed on him, and for the first time that evening, he felt a flicker of courage. He glanced back at the woman, the storm in his heart morphing slowly into resolve. What if I lose my chance? What if he dies without us ever having come to terms? "Life is fragile, Bob," the woman said gently, her eyes softening with understanding. "This is your opportunity for closure, for conversation, for understanding. You deserve that." Time felt heavy, but with Sarah at his side, he found himself nodding slowly. "Okay, I'll go. I don't want to regret this." It was a strange feeling, stepping into the unknown with a mix of vulnerability and determination. As they walked to the car, hand in hand, Bob couldn't help but reflect on how far they had both come. Just last week, everything felt distant and chaotic. But now, they were embarking on a path that could redefine their relationship. "I'll be there the whole time, those walls are coming down," Sarah promised, a fierce protectiveness in her voice that made Bob's heart swell. Once they arrived at Bob's father's house, uncertainty crept in like a fog. The air around was thick with unspoken words, lingering ghosts of unresolved issues. He stepped inside, and the stark reality of the moment almost brought him to his knees. His father was frail, the image of weakness made Bob's heart ache. "Dad," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Bob," his father replied, looking smaller than Bob remembered. There was a void between them, filled with years of silence. I don't know where to begin," Bob admitted, throat tight but determined. "Neither do I," his father said, his voice trembling but filled with something resembling hope. "I've thought about you every day. I'm sorry, Bob. I made mistakes. I can't change those, but I want to talk." Sarah's hand squeezed Bob's lightly, but it was enough to send a wave of warmth through his bones. They sat together, and slowly, words began to unfold. As Bob shared his hurt, his father listened, grief etched into his features. The conversation was raw, painful, yet it sparked something deep inside Bob: catharsis. A release of feelings bottled up for far too long. "I know I let you down," his father finally said, tears spilling. "I wanted to protect you, but I never realized I was pushing you away instead. I was selfish." "Maybe we were both selfish," Bob replied, pain and clarity sharpening his voice. "But now we have a chance to do better. We can face this together." In those moments, walls between them began to crumble, forged anew with honesty and understanding. They talked late into the night: regrets, dreams, forgiveness. The laughter they had once lost resurfaced, a testament to their shared history. As they wrapped up, a feeling of lightness washed over Bob. He looked at Sarah, who was watching them intently, a radiant smile plastered on her face, tears glistening in her eyes. "This is just the start," she said softly, "we still have work to do." And with that, Bob finally felt the embrace of healing take root. The future ahead felt brighter, possibilities blooming where scars had once marred their lives. The bond between them, stronger and more resilient, held the power to breathe new life into old wounds. As they walked out of the house, stars twinkling above them, Bob turned to Sarah. "Thank you for being my anchor." "Always a dad," she said, squeezing his hand tightly. "We're only getting started." And in that moment, Bob knew they could face anything together. Every step from here on would be painted with the colors of their truth, inviting both joy and vulnerability. They were ready to let the world see their journey, a collaborative masterpiece crafted from pain into something beautiful, full of promise. Life, with all its uncertainties, awaited them, and together, they were ready to embrace it. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey with friends who need to see true transformation. You need to subscribe now to our channel to follow this inspiring journey. Leave a like now if this story touched your heart, it helps us spread the message. We want to hear from you. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. This is the moment to show your support and be part of a community that believes in healing and connection.